Well, as journalists, it's our job to report what's happening in our community, and unfortunately, we find ourselves covering black-on-black violence almost every other day. Now, before we begin, you need to know that in this report we're about to show you, it is very raw and emotional with language that some viewers may find offensive.
I was interested to research and read and look into that myself, and when I saw the real data, I was like, oh shit. It's true that black people are most dangerous to other black people. I already knew that because my grandfather raised me with that understanding, that that's who you really got to look out for is other black men. So the point that I'm trying to make is that the media has gone out of their way in the past 50 years to convince the world that black people are dangerous and that black people are criminals. They've gone out of their way to perpetuate that. And what happens is when you perpetuate a narrative, eventually it becomes reality. That's just how human nature works. If you keep telling people that they are this, they're going to become that. Which is why we have thought culture, because they kept glorifying it, they kept promoting it and pushing it and telling you that it's the way to go, that it's independence, that it's empowering. And now what do you have? You have a generation of women that actually believes that and subscribes to that thought process, right? So if you keep glorifying black men for being thugs and being gang members, what do you think that our young boys are going to gravitate towards being if that's where the attention and that's where the glorification is centered, right? So I say it all the time. Women decide what's going to be popular amongst men because they reward that behavior with pussy. So women in the black community, they reward the wrong traits in men. They reward the thugs and the drug dealers and the ball players. So as a young boy, you're already programmed that if you want to get pussy, you want to have access to the most beautiful black women, you got to be either a pro athlete, right? Or you got to be a fucking dope boy. That's what it is. That's what it is. Now, if black women wanted to see a change in the caliber of men, all they would have to do is start rewarding men for other behaviors. If the guys with college degrees is who fuck the most beautiful black women, every black guy would be trying to go get a degree. Yeah. If you had to own a home to get pussy, every motherfucker would be saving up and investing in real estate trying to get his first home. I'm just keeping it real, facts. We're motivated by pussy, right? Pussy is the greatest motivator or it's the greatest distraction.
Well, when you say we, you're generalizing.
No, I'm saying males, we're wired that way. Obviously, we're animals, and what separates us from animals is our discipline. So if we implement discipline, right, and our consciousness, so if we implement discipline, we're counteracting our proclivities. But generally speaking, that's how we're wired. Yeah. And when you get to 14, 15, 16, all of a sudden you start being willing to do whatever it takes to get that girl's fucking acceptance, right? Yeah. Because you're trying to get up in that coochie, right? So what I'm trying to say is that the behaviors that women want from men, it's simple to get those behaviors. All you have to do is reward those behaviors with pussy. And that's what motherfuckers are gonna do. Right? So if you're fucking guys because they got 22-inch rims, well, don't be surprised that guys are like doing whatever they got to do to get the money for rims. Because me, I put rims on my car because I like how it looks. When I was a little boy and I used to play with Hot Wheels, I used to have the muscle cars with the exaggerated wheels. So obviously, this is before I like girls. So that's just what I like. Go fuck yourself. I like the aesthetics of cars that got bigger rims, right? Yeah. But there was a dude that was criticizing some guy for putting like $3,000 rims on like a $1,500 car. It's like, oh, these stupid motherfuckers putting these rims on these cars. It's stupid. And I was like, time out. I think it's stupid. You think it's stupid. I'm going to tell you why it's not stupid for him. Because you have to ask yourself what his intention is. What is his mindset? What is his agenda? What is his goal for putting those rims on that car? I can guarantee you it's to get attention from women and to get easy access to pussy. And he's getting that. So how's he stupid? How's he stupid? If that was his intention, and that's why he did it, and it's successful, how is he stupid? You see what I mean? He's not stupid. So, is it a stupid thing to do? That's your opinion, right? So, there's guys that will be millionaires from other business, but maybe they're not attractive, maybe they're not good with women, and that guy will go and invest in a strip club. Out of all his businesses, he'll make the least amount of money off that strip club. That strip club might be breaking even. That strip club might even be fucking underperforming. He might be paying more to keep that strip club open than he's making. But I guarantee you, he's fucking beautiful girls every goddamn day of the week. Every day of the week, he's fucking bad bitches because he owns the strip club. So is he stupid for having that business? If he opened that business to make a profit, yeah, he's stupid. But if he opened that business to have easy access to women, he's a genius. They're fucking him for a better schedule. They're fucking them because they don't want to work Wednesdays. You ever go to a strip club, notice the front door girl stays the same. She's beautiful, and that bitch holds that position for a minute. How you think she got to be in the front door? Whose dick she had to suck to have the easiest job in the building? Is she stupid for sucking dick? Or she's smart? She's smart, because she sucked the right dick. Do you understand what I'm saying? These other bitches out here sucking dicks all over the place. Smith could last this long because Will Smith is the ultimate tool. You see what I'm saying? He gonna do whatever they tell him to do, however they tell him to do it. He gonna jump in there and do that. Step back and look at it for what it is. We are where we are by design. None of this shit is by accident. It's not the kids these days. It's that we're this far along in the plan. This has always been the plan. Everything is going as planned, right? Nothing is happening outside of what they want to happen. Black people still being stuck in the same perpetual state of fucking racism and white supremacy and marching and protesting and all this other bullshit. We are stuck in the same fucking position, spinning our wheels by design. The reason why we're still marching is because they tricked us into following the wrong quote unquote heroes. They told us that our heroes and our freedom fighters were Martin Luther King and this person and that person. Anytime you see white people giving an award to somebody, you gotta stop and be like, time out. Issuing the awards to our heroes. Pay attention, bro. They pick the fucking heroes and the idols and the icons for us to follow. And if there's somebody that are actually trying to lead us somewhere, that person's gonna die. There's a reason why Martin Luther King has far more accolades, far more awards, and has more holidays and all this other bullshit than Malcolm X. There's a reason why. The obvious reason. They don't want you following the Malcolm X, sentiment. They want you following that passive Martin Luther King.
Crime scenes like this one play out almost every week in Chattanooga, and the story is usually the same. A disagreement between two black men or a group of African Americans that leads to violence. Some of the victims live, others die. No one knows this better than Celeste Woods. You see, 9 years ago, her son Damon was shot to death in this East Chattanooga neighborhood. She says she'll never forget that horrible night.
And the next thing I know, I was getting a phone call and said, Damon has been shot, and could you come? And this is the area that I came to, out here. And when I came, there he was, the rope was taped around, and he was lying face down in the street.
To add insult to injury, Damon died on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, a day most Americans celebrate a man who stood for nonviolence.
That we need to get out and try to march and try to tell somebody,
So they're glorifying a strategy and a method that didn't work for us. It actually set us back to realize that Martin Luther King was a tool used against the black people. He wasn't used for the black people. He was used against the black people. His message sounded good, but it backfired because what he was fighting for was to desegregate. That's what he was fighting for. What was his dream? The most popular speech was he had a dream, and that dream was little white boys and...
Schools had a heavy reinforcement into our characters because they were black schools. Schools were not integrated at that time. Do the best that you can with your life. You are unique. You have a contribution to make. You have something to offer. You have a talent. You have skills. Many, many other things that you do have. Go on out there into the world and get them. Go on and develop yourself. College, if you can't go to college, take up a good skill. Skill trades were heavy then. We moved away from that, of course. Now, but in the 50s, skill trades were very heavy. Masonry, carpentry, electronics, auto mechanics, and many, many others. So we were encouraged. We were at the very threshold of integration. Emulate them, take on many of these as much as possible, middle-class values and virtues. That was a kind of inferior stigma placed on black people. You had to look through it to see exactly where, the real truth behind it. That is a stigma of inferiority. You're not exactly where you should be, but you need to do this, you need to do thus and so, in order to be accepted in the white world. So let's try. What does this mean then? What do we say? Go to college, excel in school while you're here, and wherever you do go. There were imaginary geographical boundaries in our minds as to how far we could go. There were imaginary psychological boundaries in our mind and emotional boundaries in our minds as to how far we could go. relative to the black-white situation. So we learned to work within the confines, to be creative as much as possible, to make, as black people say a lot of times, make do with what you have. And by this adaptability to this own inner culture, this is what brought forth many of the things, many of the qualities and the strengths. And it meant that we had to live beyond where we were. We were not taught just to watch where you're walking right now, just to look down right where you're in the 50s. But look ahead. There's something out there, Go get it.
He wanted black people and white people being integrated. Okay, I'm here to tell you that was the worst thing for the black community. The black community was doing better in segregation than they're doing now. Hold on, because some of you are confused by that. I'm not saying that we were treated better. I'm saying we were
One of the most pervasive stereotypes about black Americans is that of the absent black father. Where does this toxic idea about black fathers even come from? Well, one theory takes it back to a 1965 report titled The Negro Family, The Case for National Action. The report became one of the most contentious political documents in 20th century America. The Lyndon B. Johnson administration had to do more for racial equality than simply pass the Voting Rights Act. The government had to understand the state of black communities and why they were the way they were. But Moynihan ended up focusing on one thing, the black family. According to him, the fundamental reason for growing economic inequality between white and black Americans was a crumbling family structure in black communities. And at the foundation of the so-called crumbling black family structure was the absent black father.
There's a difference. White people might have been more racist back then. The racism was more overt, right? But black people were doing better as a people. They were doing better as a community. They owned more back then. They had a higher rate of marriage, and they had a higher rate of children being born in wedlock. So statistically speaking, black people were doing better in every fucking category. Yes, better financially, and I'll tell you why. Because you had more black business owners back then. You had more blacks owning property back then. You had more black teachers, more black schools.
Fatherless families, so prevalent among contemporary blacks, are a legacy of slavery, where families were not recognized under slavery. This ignores the fact that the problem has become much worse among generations of blacks far removed from slavery than among generations closer to the era of slavery, close quote. Explain that.
If you go back into the 20s, you find that married couple families were much more prevalent among blacks then than today. Most black kids grew up in homes with two parents under slavery itself and for generations thereafter. And as late as the 1960s, most black children grew up in two-parent homes. When you think about it, I mean, centuries of slavery and generations of Jim Crow did not destroy the black family, but one generation of the welfare state did.
So now you have desegregation, we're integrated, right? And now all of a sudden we're doing worse in every category. Now we have the most abortions, right? Now we have the most broken homes. We have the most children born out of wedlock. We have a higher fucking crime rate.
Government became a substitute husband when it started to make laws saying that if a woman didn't have a man that she was living with or was not married to a man, that she could get money from the government. And so the government became a substitute husband. And this was institutionalized through many, many programs like Women, Infants, and Children, which makes it clear that it's not men, infants, and children. It's not couples, infants, and children. It's not infants whose parents don't make enough money. So particularly in inner city communities that were poor, oftentimes, and particularly in African-American black communities, there was oftentimes the black male was not making a lot of money. And in those cases, when he wasn't, the woman and the black male, both, usually a black woman and a black man calculated that there was an inadequate amount of money that was coming from the father to support the children effectively. So she made sure that the father did not live with her. And so then, so she could get the money from the government. And that money came in multiple forms, but not just through the Women, Infants, and Children forms. And so the woman felt that the best way to protect her children was to not have the father around. But it turned out that was the worst way to protect her children, because the children without a dad are most vulnerable. Now, we've known this since 1965 when the Moynihan report came out. And Daniel Patrick Moynihan was a sociologist, a U.S. Senator, a Department of Labor, a cabinet executive under both Republicans and Democratic presidents. And he was asked, because he had such qualifications, to do a report of what was creating crime in the inner city. And everybody was going, oh my God, this is going to end up, blaming crime on blacks, because we know that in the inner city, very frequently blacks commit crimes. And what came out was a very different report than many people expected, which was that crimes were not created by blacks per se. That crimes were created by those people in the inner city who were being raised without dads. And that at the time in 1965 was 25% of the males in the inner city, almost all blacks, that were among black males, among black families, 25% of the children were being raised without their dads in 1965. Today, the percentage is more than 70% among black males. Among Caucasian males at the 1965, it was only 3.2% of Caucasian males that were being raised without their dads. Today, it is 35% of Caucasian males being raised without their dads. So the Caucasian males being raised without their dads today is higher than it was for black males in 1965. And we're seeing a huge amount of dysfunction among both black males and Caucasian males today.
Statistically speaking, we're doing far worse post desegregation than we were when we were segregated. And who ushered that movement, that change? Martin Luther King. And how they get the momentum? With shit like the motherfucking Rosa Parks incident, which was staged. Y'all don't know that, but the Rosa Parks incident was staged.
Lord, I ain't gonna sit in the back of this bus no more. I'm just tired. It didn't happen that way. It was planned by the NAACP, okay? And as a matter of fact, they had chosen another woman to do it. And just before she did it, at some point, they found out that that black woman was pregnant out of wedlock. They like, this ain't gonna work. Ain't nobody gonna step there for some pregnant black woman trying to stand up and talk about she's tired. They said, okay, we can't use her. And they found Rosa Parks to do it. And they tried to portray it as though somehow or another, Rosa was just so tired. And she was coming home from work one day, and Rosa said, Lord, I ain't sitting in the back of this bus anymore. No more. Yo, did you know it happened that way?
No, you just hear in schools that she was a hero.
She was not no hero. She was a zero. She was not a brave woman. It was planned by the NAACP. They knew what they were doing.
You got a government and a system that's staging, right, civil rights incidents so that they can go ahead and march behind it and all this other kind of stuff. All of it is orchestrated is what I'm trying to tell you. It's orchestrated shit. Tell me how it is that nowadays you constantly, or not nowadays, but recently, you had all these news stories breaking about abusive officers, beating up or killing supposedly innocent black men. Okay. Well, if the system is so unjust, right, and so racist and so on and so forth, why would that very same system be covering these stories? Why would the white media be covering these stories? Think about that for a minute.
Push an agenda?
Exactly. They're going out of their way to tell you that white people are abusing black people and that white people are killing black people and all this kind of stuff. They're going out of their way to tell you that. They're trying to stimulate a response, stupid. They're trying to get an emotional response out of you. Then you go join Black Lives Matter. But are you following the money? Are you asking yourself who's funding Black Lives Matter? Of course you're not. Of course you're not. You're responding emotionally like blacks have always done. Did we ask ourselves who was financing the civil rights movement? Who was funding Martin Luther King? Who's writing his speeches? Did we ever ask those questions? You loved the speech, but you didn't ask who wrote the speech. No, Martin Luther King did not write most of his speeches. And if I tell you who was writing them, it'll blow your fucking mind. I'm not going to tell you. I'm going to make you fuckers go research it yourself. I'll give you a hint. The people that were writing his fucking speeches weren't even black. Ooh. Just like the people who are writing most of feminism. Women. The people that are funding feminism, who are orchestrating it and controlling it and steering it, are not even women. What male organization would be funding feminism? What would be their incentive to fund feminism? What would be their incentive to write the speeches and to make all the political connections for the mouthpieces that are females? See, the poster person they give you, the person you see, is going to be a female, right? But everybody behind it is a bunch of men with agendas. It's the same thing with hip hop. The people that you see on the mic and rapping, they look just like us. Yo, they saying they thumbs in it. But the people in the boardrooms that make all the decisions and sign all the fucking paperwork, those motherfuckers don't look like that. They don't look like Rick Ross. They don't look like Lil Wayne, right? So why are these people so invested in hip hop? Why are they so stringent on what the message needs to be? Because you think the artist decides the message. No, they don't. There's nowhere where you're gonna see the actual artist deciding the message. If you want to be an actor, you don't decide what the movies are about. You don't decide the scripts and the roles. No, you're an actor, bitch. We tell you what character you're gonna play and what your lines are gonna be. Hip hop isn't any fucking different. So when you see Kaepernick taking that fucking knee, stop being stupid. Kaepernick is taking a knee because the people signing his fucking checks are telling him to take the knee because there's going to be an agenda. And there's going to be plenty of cameras there, and they're going to spin it the way they want to spin it. But when you look at who raised him, he wasn't raised by black folk. He wasn't raised in a black community, and he just recently started sporting Afro. Fucker has no history of being a fucking freedom fighter or for the black community or anything like that. But all of a sudden, Kaepernick takes a fucking knee, and y'all think that this is some type of revolutionary movement because you're fucking stupid.
I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that his intentions were disingenuous, though.
Bro, he was paid to do that shit. I'm telling you right now. He's paid to do that shit. This is what I'm trying to tell you, right? This is the game that they play, and the people follow because they've already eradicated independent thought. They just react, right? This is what they do. So, you're a black man. I'm a black man. We both got motherfucking dreads. We both considered have an intimidating build, right? We both can be considered dangerous, right? How often have you felt that the police profiled you or that the police pulled you over and pulled their guns out and your life was at threat? How often have you felt that your life was at risk?
To be honest, never.
That's my point, right? So at the age that I am, the amount of cities that I've driven in, the amount of cars I've been in and blase, the amount of times I've been pulled over, the amount of times that I've been in situations with the police, there's very few times where I felt like my life was at risk. The only time I ever felt that way is when I was actually being pursued for a gun charge. So them coming with that amount of force was justified because I was wanted for something involving a deadly weapon. But that was the only time where I felt like my life was at risk dealing with the police. So I'm not saying that it doesn't happen and blah, blah, blah. What I'm saying is they use the media to embellish something that happens very, very seldom and make it seem like it's happening all the time.
It's kind of like the way I call it, like the violent minority, kind of like with Bin Laden and Muslims and all of that. There was like a violent minority of people that were aggressive and violent, and then we projected that upon the whole belief system.
And we make it represent all Muslims.
Yeah.
That's the same game that they play. There's an interesting book that you should read. It's called Black on Black Crime, and it shows you, number one, how few black people are actually involved in crime, right? But more importantly, it shows you that majority of black crime is black on black crime. But yet the media has convinced white people in the last 40 years that black people are dangerous to them. When in all actuality, white people are least likely to be assaulted by a black person, right? So if a white person is robbed, murdered, whatever, it is overwhelmingly more likely going to happen at the hands of a white assailant. And the same thing for blacks.
This young woman from the other night when things were really rough in the streets in Charlotte. Here she is. Guess what? I could be at work, at school, in my car. I can still get shot by the police. I can get shot anywhere. This woman obviously so upset, and she, her fear is genuine. She says that she believes that wherever she is, she could get shot. So it's no more dangerous for her to be in the middle of that crowd. How do you respond to that?
Well, her fear isn't real. It's based on emotion, and it's not based on anything factual that she'd be able to articulate. It's just out of control behavior. I'll tell you what she faces danger, where she faces danger. It's being on the street in any American ghetto where the black-on-black crime is a bigger threat and a bigger problem in the black community than the police use of force. So the fact that they continue to focus on this aberration, that is the police use of force, it's an aberration, okay? They have more fear of that than coming across a gang member or being caught in a crossfire like Dwayne Wade's niece was in the city of Chicago, pushing a baby stroller down the street, for heaven's sakes, with a baby in it, and she took shots to the head from two black longtime career criminals. And so that's why I said it's not based on anything real. It's based on emotion. And if they really took a look at what was going on around them, what they'd be railing against is not the police and the police use of force. The police are down there to protect good law-abiding black people, to protect and serve. But their biggest threat are criminal gangs, and it's other black males who are involved in this crime and violence in numbers that are disproportionate to their representation in the population. But of course, emotion's driving this thing, not reality.
This is why Black Lives Matter is fucking ridiculously hypocritical, because you're addressing the accusation or the claim that white officers are killing all of these innocent black men, but yet an overwhelming majority of black murder is perpetrated by other black men. So you would need to first be addressing that. And the only humans that are killing more blacks than black men are black women via abortion. So why are we not addressing that? And dude, this is not something that's not a talking point that I heard somebody talking about. This is the way I viewed Black Lives Matter when it first came out. Like when it first started, I was like, time out, time out, time out. Because I already knew that the most death in the black community was self-inflicted. Like I already knew that because I'm coming from the streets. You know what I'm saying? Every time I've been shot at, it's been a black man. Every time I've been stabbed, it's been a black man. I'm sorry. It's just my experience. Chop this up into like 4 fucking episodes. All right, man. We up out of here, man. Peace.